absolutely. Strong men make women happy. I get called a misogynist all the time for telling men to have standards. Men with standards and principle and capability and competence make women happy. The number one way to improve female mental health is to make men better men. And the reason they don't want men to be strong and have any kind of control over their relationships or their households is very simple. Females are easier to sway with an emotional argument. If you have a bunch of households which are run by women and the woman is in charge, and then the woman is going to sit and watch an emotional argument, propaganda, which is all that the MSM use, they can't use logical arguments, so they use emotional ones. Put the mask on for grandma. Well, grandma's 98, and 98-year-olds unfortunately die of diseases. And telling a 6-year-old kid to put a mask on, or a 21-year-old strong man to put a mask on, because 98-year-old grandma might get sick, doesn't even make any logical sense. But it's an emotional argument, and women fall for emotional arguments easier than men. So how do you control a populace? It's very simple. You subdue the men, you make the women in charge, you make it a matriarchy, and then you use emotional arguments via the propaganda mechanisms, because women are more likely to agree with them, and then you have the entire population under control. That's why it's done on purpose. They don't want a man to have any degree of control over anything in his life. You know, even his own house. You can't even be the king of your own household anymore. And it's making women miserable. It's making men miserable. It makes the entire populace miserable. And there's another thing I want people to understand. Misery is also a very key component to their slave agenda. Because when you're truly miserable, you are selfish. You don't care about anything that happens outside of yourself. People say that you and I perhaps were angry people, but I'll tell you something. We're positive people because we care. We care about what happens to our country. We care about what happens to our cities. We care about what happens to the future for our children. When you're truly miserable and truly sad, you're self-obsessed. You don't care about anything but yourself. They want us all miserable on antidepressants, eating the bugs, watching the TV shows. Because then when something happens down the street that's not supposed to happen, we don't care. Oh yeah, well, the store down the street got robbed and my town's on fire, but I'm sad anyway. They want us all selfish, because when we're selfish, you can't band together to resist anything. Been talking the truth for so long. It feels like eternity. We've been screaming the truth to the world, and it's remarkable that we get proved right time and time again. And when we say something new is coming, people still look at us like we're crazy. I mean, how many times do we have to be correct before people understand they should listen to us before it's too late? Yeah, it's a pretty standardized tactic. Any man who is successful in the world is going to have a degree of history with females, and that's the way they attack you. It's an attack vector. You just named it. They did it to you. They've done it to Trump. They did it to Assange. They're trying to do it to me. As soon as they want to get rid of you, they will try and accuse you of the most heinous crimes, because sexual crimes are heinous. It slanders your name, which makes the process itself a punishment. It doesn't matter if you're found innocent at the end of it, because they've slandered you for years anyway. The process is a punishment, which is why they choose sexual crimes. They're also extremely subjective, hard to prove. They don't need any solid evidence, and they can go through your entire personal history and try and blackmail and bribe females who you once knew to turn on you in an attempt to destroy your life. So it's a very common tactic. I think anybody with a brain out there understands exactly what's happening to me and what this entire attempt against me is, because it's absolutely asinine and insane. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it is scary, the fact that 2,000 women who I've known throughout my life, I'm 36 years old, 2,000 women were called and effectively offered bribes to turn on me. Effectively, it was, if you have a negative story about Andrew Tate, you'll get paid money. That's a bribe. They tried to bribe 2,000 women who know me, and they still couldn't manage to put together any kind of coherent case. They're so desperate for a case, the two victims they've identified have repeatedly said on camera, "We are not victims." Candace Owens actually did a fantastic breakdown. Anyone who's interested in my case can do a full breakdown. Candace did it, and it shows everything. There's no victims, and they can't find anybody to turn on me. And it's crazy. I spent 3 months in jail, in a Romanian jail, which is not anything like a Western jail. It's truly a form of torture. And I sat there 5 months locked in my house, and all I can do is take it as a test from God and do my very best to be an example and show the world that when you truly stand up and truly try and inspire people to be anything more than slaves, they're going to come for you and they're going to attempt to destroy you. These people are merciless. They're merciless. They're genuinely evil. I was sitting in a jail cell suffering from what? For what? To protect who? They don't even have a single victim in the victim list. They don't even have a single woman who could take the stand against me. And they're still going to put all over the news I'm some sort of terrible person because the goal is to slander my name regardless of the outcome. And we have to pray that the judicial system of Romania does the right thing and throws all of this away. It is ridiculous, and it's just weaponized virtue. The problem they're having is that we're telling the truth, and we're repeatedly telling the truth, and we have morals and we have standards, and we're standing up for what we know is right, and we're standing up for God, and we're doing the right thing. So how do they attack us? It's very difficult to say we're not principled or intelligent or correct. So instead they have to say we're bad people. So to say somebody's a bad person, what you do is you weaponize a virtue. You say he's misogynistic or he's homophobic, or you find some virtue and you put it into a bullet and you shoot it at them. And it's all just character assassination tactics. They can't say we lie because we tell the truth, and we keep repeatedly being proven telling the truth. So instead they have to assassinate our characters. That is their primary goal and objective. And that's why the process itself is a punishment. I tell you, the BBC, in the 18 months the BBC have been printing about me being a human trafficker, because they've done an article a day every day for 18 months. 3 staff members of the BBC have been caught committing sexual crimes. 3 of their own staff. It's mentioned for a day, maximum 2, and then it goes away. And here I am 18 months later, still going through the grinder of endless character assassination. It's insane. You're either on their team and they protect you, or you're against them on the side of God and truth, and they're absolutely out to destroy you. Every single thing the MSM say is a fucking lie, and I apologize for swearing, but it is a lie. Everything I read in these papers, all of it is a lie, head to toe. Well, absolutely it's backfiring, because that's the worst thing you do to a teenage boy, say, don't watch this man. And the thing that they don't understand, because these people are so disconnected from reality, all of these people are genuinely disconnected. They don't understand that my message makes people feel better. I teach men to be strong. I teach men how to make money. I teach men how to be confident, how to be motivated, how to be disciplined, how to be diligent, how to be hardworking. If a man adopts these qualities and applies them to his life will get better. This isn't a matter of just consuming content on the internet. This is a matter of people's lives genuinely changing their day-to-day reality. If that happens, if somebody's day-to-day reality changes because they're a fan of me and they listen to my content, who do you think you are to come along and tell them to stop and go back to misery? It's never going to work. It's never going to work. And the reason I'm so heavily demonized is not because the things I say, it's because I am so massively influential. And when I'm teaching these young men, these young boys, to have any degree of standard for themselves, any degree of parameter for what they will accept inside of their minds, they see that as a threat to the slave programming. If a man stands up for himself and has self-respect, he doesn't want to wear a mask because he respects himself. He doesn't want to take antidepressants. He respects himself. He doesn't want to eat the bugs. He respects himself. They don't want men to have self-respect. We're not allowed to have self-respect. We have to sit there and be completely empty vessels waiting for the slave programming to be plugged in, so we'll comply. That's all they want, is compliance. And that's why me, as a man who stands up and says, listen, you should become as strong as possible, you should believe in yourself, you should be motivated, and you should also try to make as much money as possible, because money is a very important weapon in the fight against slavery. I am seen as public enemy number 1 for genuinely improving people's lives. That's how evil these people are. It's a good question, and they are the end result of a very sophisticated propaganda machine which has been built with the sole intention of creating miserable drones which will believe anything they are told. These people can be told the sky is green and they'll believe it. And all of the propaganda which is being pumped their way is negative. The world is going to end because the sun is hot. Don't have kids, that's bad for some reason. Don't eat meat, only eat the bugs. Sit at home, you should have a therapist, you should be on antidepressants. Like, they're just trying to pump nothing but negativity of these people, and they absorb it. And this is what I said to one of my friends. My friend said, Andrew, you've been through so much for telling the truth. Why do you do it? And I say, well, you either fight against the injustice and tell the truth and you suffer the consequences of that, or you believe the bullshit and suffer the consequences of being at war with your own mind and your own biology and end up miserable anyway. There is a war that cannot be escaped, and I would rather live true to God and tell the truth and fight the war this way. But it's truly incredible that these leftists do what they do. And I also think there's something that global about the world that most people don't understand. The people who are in charge of the planet, who are in charge of global finance and make all the important decisions, and who are in charge of money, they are called globalists for a reason. They have no particular interest in any one country. All they care about is control and maximizing profits. And I don't think many people understand that. For a long time, we've been exploiting the second and third worlds because someone has to lose for another person to win. There's no light without dark. We've been exploiting the second and third worlds for a long time to be prosperous in the West, and that's now changing for a variety of reasons, which will be a very long conversation. But the globalists have no problem exploiting the first world and simply turning it on its head, destroying the societies of America, destroying the societies of Europe, doing whatever they need to do to make endless and forever profit, and they'll simply move to a penthouse in another part of the world. They have no problem to move to Africa, or they have no problem moving to the Middle East. They have no problem to live in Asia. As long as they get forever profits and billions of dollars, they'll let Europe burn. And all of these leftist policies are designed to create a slave class of people which have no interest in trying to preserve the sanctity of the nations they live within. Oh, absolutely, pod people. And pod people can't have any remnants of warrior spirit inside of them because they're not going to be able to live in their pod. So this is the point. The world's over in 2030. Why go to the gym? Why get strong? Why work hard? Why get rich? Why be funny? Why be charismatic? Why do anything? It doesn't matter. The world's going to end. Sit in your pod. Wait for the food delivery. That's what they want from all of us. They want all of us to have absolutely no ambition and to sit there and be slave-minded. And it's very difficult to resist enslavement if you need the government to eat. I think all governments on the planet are constantly trying to encroach on the freedom of their populace, trying to get closer and closer to some version of communism where you have to absolutely and utterly comply or you literally do not have food to eat. And that's what they want. And it's an obvious agenda. It's a very obvious agenda, and it plays into the worst characteristics of the human psyche. Because there are a lot of people out there who, when given the excuse to be lazy, will be lazy. When given the excuse for why they're not successful, will take that excuse and use it as a shield for their own glaring, obvious failings. And we're now building two camps. We have the camps of losers and winners, and the winners are telling the truth, and the losers are just adopting all of the slave mind programming. And unfortunately, it's becoming more and more dangerous now to even say the truth because these losers band together like hyenas and attack anybody who stands up and tells the truth, like they've attacked you and like they've attacked me. The people who are trying to put me in jail are not good people. They're not good people. They're not honest, hardworking, God-fearing people. They're evil people, and they know exactly what they're trying to do. It's scary. Absolutely, they don't have God on their side. The moral arc of the universe bends towards truth. It takes unlimited energy to continue to propagate a lie. It's very difficult to do. It goes against the law of physics. If you put a lie into the universe, you need to continually push that lie to keep it afloat. It's like a hot air balloon. You need to keep that engine running. You need to keep the flame going permanently to keep it floating. Because as long as people use their own eyes and their own senses and eventually begin to think, the lie is going to sink and it's going to disappear. And there's certainly been a shift in consciousness in the last 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years ago, it was much worse than it is today. And I feel like I said this when I was canceled in August of last year. I was doing Patrick Bet-David's podcast, and I said, they are making a mistake. When you have power, the only guarantee to power is that one day you will lose it. And the quickest way to lose power is to overuse it, to overreach, to overstretch. When you do that, everyone loses faith in you. For you to have power, you must have the faith of the populace. Once people understand that you're abusing your power and it's no longer a fair system, they're no longer interested in what you have to say or your power mechanisms, and then you can only resort to complete brutality. And I think it's going to be quite difficult for them to do now that the consciousness of people are waking up. But certainly, yeah, I feel like we are winning now. I feel like you and I have been through the trenches and suffered the absolute worst of it 5 to 6 years ago, and now most people understand. They overstepped with the COVID lies, they overstepped with the censorship, they overstepped with the election lies, they overstepped trying to say anybody who tells the truth is a sexual predator, they overstepped by protecting all the people who we know do genuinely bad things they refuse to talk about. They overstepped so many times now that people have a thirst in their hearts to know what's really going on, and that's our chance to finally make it clear to people. And I pray we can finally get through to people to a level where next time they try the next big psyop, which we can talk about, which might be coming up soon, everybody rejects it. Because there's something really important, Alex. We talk always about who controls the world, but ultimately, without our compliance, they can't control anything. We control the world. A mask mandate is a piece of paper. It's a piece of fucking paper. That's it. It's cowardice that makes that have power. If everyone wasn't a coward and stood up and said, no, I'm sorry, I respectfully decline, then it's over. We still control the world, but that's why they're trying their absolute best to make sissies of all of us. Without a border, you don't have a legal system, you don't even have a nation anymore. You want to talk about rape without consent, you absolutely and utterly nailed it. And they use this word and they use this attack on any strong man primarily as an effort to damage masculinity. They make it out to the world that if you're a man who is traditionally masculine, who stands up, who is strong, who is not apologetic for his opinions, then by extension, you must be a rapist. And they do this so that men are afraid to act this way, because that, once again, pushes the idea that men should be sissies and soft, so it's easier for them to have slave-minded individuals. What's actually crazy is this. Women want men who are masculine. The kind of man who is not going to rape is the kind of man who has choices and genuine access to females who love him. Why would a man who is successful in all realms of human endeavor, including his relationships with females, ever rape anybody? No, I'll tell you who's a rapist. The liberal who eats the bugs, who's fat and ugly, with no personality, who's sad on antidepressants. No woman wants him. He's the kind of guy who has to rape to have sex, not the traditionally masculine, toxically male, the man they try and say. So it's absolutely and utterly, it's a mind attack. It's a psyop by saying if you stand up and you have muscles and you have a nice car and you're rich and you're strong and you have opinions and you say, yeah, this is what I believe and I'm not sorry for it, that means you are a bad person and by extension a rapist. And what they're trying to do is stop men from acting that way. They want all of us afraid. Without fear, none of this works. I think it was Goebbels who said it. I don't know if your research team can find it. Goebbels said it. You lie and you lie on repeat and you make them afraid. And that's all you have to do. Nazi Germany literally said the exact same thing and look what they did to the world. And it's amazing that the tactics haven't changed. The apparatus, the MSM hasn't changed. It's the same game. It's exactly the same game it's always been. I personally believe that 2024 is I think it's going to be even bigger than culture. I think it could be the end of Western civilization if it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go. I really think it's the final chance. And I don't want to be assassinated, and I certainly would never kill myself, but I think it would be an interesting conversation for us to talk about whether they are going to be able to do again what they did before. Because if they don't, they're going to lose. And I think that caged, desperate tigers, cornered tigers are sometimes the most dangerous. And I don't know what they have up their sleeve. What are they going to possibly even try? Because if we lose in 2024, it's over for the whole idea of democracy. It's over for the whole idea of belief in the system. It's over for the whole Western world. It's over for the dollar. It's over for everything, isn't it? Because they want me to cower or cuck. What they're trying to do is, because I inspire so many people, if they can break me, they can break the souls of millions of people by extension. And also what they're trying to do, they're hoping that I will believe I can reason with these psychopaths. I don't think I can reason with people who hate me. They hate me. They hate everything I stand for. They hate the way I walk. They hate the way I look. They hate the way I think. They hate my ideas. They hate my relationships with my brother. They hate my friends. They hate everything about me. I have no interest in trying to reason with them. I'm not going to stand up and say, well, maybe if I talk a little bit softer, they'll be nice to me. No, I don't operate under that frame. It's like Churchill. Churchill said, no, we're not going to negotiate with Hitler. I'm not here to negotiate with anybody. If you're going to destroy me, do it. I'm going to hold my head high. I'm going to walk into court with my head held high before I get dragged off to jail. I'm not going to cuck or cower, because that's a spiritual loss. You can do what you want to my body. You can put me in jail, but you won't break my spirit. A spiritual victory is enough for me. I know I'm innocent. I know I've done nothing wrong. I know I tell the truth. I know I help people. I'm not going to back down or cower or give up. And Trump knows he's innocent too. And sometimes in these scenarios where you don't stand a chance, technically, legally, when you're dealing with the apparatus of man, which has been rigged against you because humans are imperfect, all you can do is look to God and understand the truth of your heart, the truth of your soul, and aim for a spiritual victory. And you have a spiritual victory of a man, as a man, by having your head held high. If they were about to shoot me in the head by firing squad, I would go down with my head held high with a smile on my face. I'm not gonna fucking cry. You're gonna shoot me anyway. You're going to shoot me anyway. So if they're going to do what they're going to do to me, and they're going to do what they do to Trump anyway, the best thing we can do is act like men, because that pleases God. And you know what's funny? What's funny about the world is if you please God, if you act with honor and integrity and you do the right thing, and God likes you, it's amazing how favored you become. Some people will call it lucky. I don't call it that. I call it favored. When you act the right way, it's amazing what God will give you. And almost sometimes in impossible odds, you manage to pull it off. And people go, how did they do that? Because you made God happy. God is watching all of these things. And these people who think they can just throw people in jail on some garbage are going to see that there is a karmic retribution in the universe and that the truth is on our side. And I know exactly how Trump feels. Trump is waking up frustrated, angry, but he sees himself serving a purpose higher than these orchestrated, pretend Shakespearean plays, these corrupt systems of man. And he says, you know what? I'm going to walk in there, and the only person I'm interested in pleasing is God. I'm going to walk in there like a man. The good guys have always been losing, Alex. Think about it. Any video game, you're the good guy. The boss has more health. Hey, look at World War II. England was surrounded by itself. The good guys have always been losing. The harder they hammer somebody with a genuine warrior spirit when they know they're telling the truth. It's always been this way since the dawn of human time. It's never been the good guys have the bad guys completely outnumbered and it's an easy fight for the good guys. It just doesn't work that way. It seems to be that evil always has the advantage, but somehow good wins in the end. It's always been that way. And when you know you're on the side of truth, you have to understand that's how it's always been. You can't be a king without having people try to take your empire. It's happened to you, it's happened to me, it's happening to Trump. And every single point in human history, if you were a king and you had lands and you had an empire, there were people outside of your empire prodding the defenses and trying to find a way to attack you and chop your head off. If you're going to tell the truth and be a king with an empire, they're going to come for you. You either have to shut up and work at Starbucks, take your injections, or you can wake up and be a man and understand that war is certain, battle is certain, victory is certain if you believe in God, and there's going to be times where it's going to be rough. There's going to be temporary losses in the battle, but we can win the war. And this is how it has to be done. Absolutely, because we have genuine conviction. And that's why it's interesting. We can tie this back to something we said earlier. You just named how George Washington paid the troops, and it's so interesting. This is why they're trying to control all the money. It's kind of funny. I got told by somebody, I won't say who, but they come to me and they said, Andrew, the reason that they are so threatened by you is because you are a genuine attack on the educational system of nations. The reason they talk about you in British schools to not listen to you is because you're teaching young boys to learn things that actually matter, to actually change their lives, and how to make money online, how to become financially successful. I have 16, 17-year-old kids in my programs making more than their teachers, and they're threatened by that because when you have money, you can resist. This is another big thing we don't talk about. In fact, a lot of mainstream conservatives, which I don't even bother mentioning them, attacked me saying I'm materialistic. I said, listen, if you want to fight a war, you need money. You need money to fight a war. I want all of my fans to be as rich and strong as possible because that makes them good soldiers. It's very hard to resist the vaccine if you need to go to work to pay the rent. Yeah, absolutely. And this is another thing. And I say to people when they say, how do we win this war? I say it's a spiritual war. You need to believe in God. You need to be a good person. You need to be physically strong, mentally strong. And you need to work as hard as possible and become financially successful. The left have money because they print money. They print money. So, of course, they have money. And we talk about, I have to mention this here, some mainstream conservatives. I don't know who a lot of these people are because they're all clowns and they're bought opposition anyway, but they were attacking me for being materialistic. You just talked about how George Washington needed money to save America. The reason young boys listen to me is because I have a private jet and a bunch of fancy cars and a big house. The reason I can inspire young men to get up and work hard, to be diligent and be hardworking and disciplined is because I have such a fantastic life. If I didn't have these things, they wouldn't be inspired by me. And money is what it takes to win wars. What are we sending to Ukraine? Money. We're sending money. So to sit there and say as conservatives, we shouldn't be materialistic, you're just buying into the garbage that the left want. They don't want any of us to have any kind of finance. Because when you have no finance, it's easy to bankrupt you. Listen, Alex, when I was the most Googled man in the world, do you think I weren't approached by a bunch of mainstream companies? I'm the most Googled man in the world amongst one of the most profitable demographics on the planet. Young men from 15 to 35. I was offered $30 million, $25 million, $45 million to sell my soul, to shut up about certain subjects and be sponsored by X company. I was offered unlimited money to be quiet, and I said no. Why? Because I already have money. You can't buy a man who already has money. And that's another thing they're very afraid of. They're afraid of people who are self-financed. That's one of the reasons they're afraid of Trump. He doesn't need your stupid donors. He doesn't need your garbage. He has his own money. And that's another thing you have to be very, very careful of and understand in this war. It's a spiritual war, but it's also a very financial war. They want the conservatives flat broke because then there's very little we can do. Absolutely. Back to the pod. So this is what we have to do to truly win this war. I believe spiritually people's minds are awakening and they're starting to understand all the MSM does is lie. Then what we have to do is make sure that everybody who follows us genuinely feels an absolute increase in the living conditions, and they feel more positive and they feel more disciplined and hardworking, and their real life outside of the internet actually improves. And the third thing is, I believe I have a responsibility to try and make every single person who believes in me and follows me, helping them in every way possible, and one of them is financial. I think that's the way we win this war. I think that when all of the capital is owned by people who are sensible, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to enslave us. And unfortunately right now, the capital is owned by people who are only interested in control. And when you want to control people, you have to remove their sensibilities. Because if someone has sensibilities, they have parameters. They have limits. If you don't want people with limits, if you're in charge of the world and you want to control everybody, you want to remove their sensibility so they have no limit, so you can tell them some absolute garbage. You can tell them to put a mask on and stay in their house and be afraid of the common cold. That's what you want. So we need to make sure the people with sensibilities are as well funded as possible, are as physically strong as possible, and are as spiritually strong as possible, and are brave. And that's why people like Trump and I and you, we have a duty to God to live by example, to show that you can approach these situations with bravery. You have to be a man about all of this. Otherwise, you may as well just go get in the pod and pray they don't kill you. I do believe that there's been a shift in consciousness, and I do believe we are winning. However, I can give two answers. I can give a very positive answer, and I can also give a pessimistic answer.
No, give us both. Give us, because that's the way the world works. There's always two directions.
Yeah. So my pessimistic answer is as follows. I believe the people who are in charge of the world are genuinely in charge of the entire world. I believe they set up structures to allow one populace to benefit off the exploitation of another populace. I believe that the populace which is exploited is usually the most ignorant one. And I think that as we awaken and as things shift, and perhaps we don't adhere to the type of life they want us to live, as we become a thorn in their sides, they're going to rewrite the rules, and instead of exploiting other countries for the benefit of the West, they're going to start exploiting the West for the benefit of other countries, and they're simply going to shift their global finance, and they're going to shift their base of operations.
Totally agree. Reverse colonialism.
Reverse colonialism. They have no problem watching Africa burn for Europe to get rich. And most people don't understand. They also have no problem watching Europe burn for Africa to get rich. They have no problem flipping the script. They have no problem letting Europe burn. They let it get rich off Africa. Now they'll let Africa get rich off of burning Europe. They have no problem with that. And reverse colonialism, I think, is something that's really going to happen in the next 20 to 30 years. As we wake up, and as we don't want to adhere to their garbage anymore, and as we have higher standards for ourselves, they're going to sit and go, these people think they're smart. Okay, we'll make them the serfs, and we'll just build up our lives somewhere else in Asia or the Middle East. I think the Middle East is going to be the most powerful area for the next 50 to 60 years, personally, is what I believe. But I think that's the pessimistic answer. The positive answer is, ultimately, I do believe we have control. I think the population has control. I think that the closer we get to sensibility and truth and honor is also the closer we get to God. I think that when enough of us band together and resist, it doesn't actually take as many people as you think to inspire the general population to stop adhering to these slave principles. And I do believe that a new age for the West is coming. I think that we are in a much better position than we were 3 or 4 short years ago. But I do also think a lot pins on 2024. So it's very interesting, the situation we're in. It's actually very interesting. Thank you, sir. I super appreciate that. And yeah, absolutely. It's certainly very true. I believe that it's pain that teaches. I don't believe men especially can learn any way besides pain. We talk about learning a lesson the easy way or the hard way, and I'll tell you something. We've all been offered chances to learn a lesson the easy way our entire lives. And guess what? We didn't learn anything, and we kept doing it. You could see it with its natural intrinsic inside of men. You'll see a man drive a car too fast and almost crash 100 times, and he won't learn his lesson until he's crashed that car. We only learn things the hard way. It's only pain that can teach a man. Every single time something bad happens to me, that's how I see it. I see it as God teaching me to make me more wise, more formidable, a more capable opponent. And that's how you have to approach life. Otherwise, how else can I make sense of all the things I've been through? And certainly I don't read very much. I don't study that often. Everything I talk about are just things I've learned from observation. And it's kind of interesting that the world's really not that complicated. The world's only ever been about one thing and always ever will be. It's about power. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a relationship between a man and a woman. It doesn't matter if you're talking about global economic policy. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a war in Ukraine. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. The world's always ever been about power. That's all it's going to be about to the end of human time. And they'll put all these other masks on it. They'll pretend it's about humanity and pretend it's about caring about your race or your nationality or all these other things. But truthfully, at the bottom line of all of it is power. And it's people trying to put together structures where they feel as empowered as possible so they can protect themselves and protect the people they care about. I'm not going to hide the fact that I want our team to have as much power as possible. And the other side, the liars, those who live under the veil of deception, they're only interested in power. It's always been a power struggle since the beginning of time. Then you look at power. How do you get power over people? Well, you influence them. So now it's a battle for influence. Why are they attacking me? Because I have influence. I can influence the populace. They offered me money to sell my soul, and I said, no, I am no longer wanted in this game. I am a wild card that they're not interested in. It's always been about influence. It doesn't matter if you take tanks to a pitched battle in Ukraine and fight a pitched battle, or it doesn't matter if you lie on MSM. It's all the same thing. It's about trying to get influence over people's minds to control how they think, because then you can control how they act, which gives you power. That's the bottom line of how the entire world works. So when you sit here and some politician stands up and says, I care so much about the planet, I think the sun is too hot, stay in your house and give me all your money, it's nothing to do with the sun, it's about power. They're at war against us. What is the primary objective of war? The primary objective of war is to destroy your enemy's capability to resist. That's the only objective. What is war? I must destroy my enemy's capability to resist. It doesn't matter if you do that with a Tomahawk missile. It doesn't matter if you do that with the stroke of a pen and a law. It doesn't matter if you do that with a mainstream media propaganda machine. By destroying your opponent's enemy to resist, your capability to resist, that is how you win a war. So when they're trying to make us depressed and weak and stupid and ignorant and fearful, they are destroying our capability to resist. They are at war against us. They don't need to shoot us with guns. Absolutely, you just nailed it. And if they can control the money, they control the pipeline to shut you off. And once again, what is the primary objective of war? To destroy your enemy's capability to resist. You can't make money, you can't resist. And that's exactly what they're interested in. I don't think most people understand that there are wars happening on every single level against our own populaces and our countries trying to fight other populaces at the exact same time. PSYOP is a war. PSYOP is a war. Laws being passed that prevent you from living a full life is a war. It doesn't matter if it's a bullet or a stroke of a pen. If they destroy your capability to resist, then you are being defeated in a war. That's all war ever is, and life is war. We are fighting a war right now, and there's a war against our minds. They don't want anybody to be rich and brave. Those two things, rich, brave, opinionated. If you're those three things, you're a target for the system. It's a really good question. And I really hope when people watch me, what I truly hope is, because we all live different lives and we have different life paths. And I think that the truth is always somewhere in the middle. I'm not saying I'm 100% correct. And I'm not, I do believe my enemies are 100% wrong. However, the truth is always going to be somewhere in the middle. And I like hearing different opinions. I love hearing people who disagree with me, who agree with me with a slightly different caveat, with other points to add. I think my primary objective is to inspire people to stand up and speak and be unapologetic in what they believe, and to make sure they work hard enough in life and go through enough pain so they've learned enough lessons so their opinions are not just waffle, but they're based on real world experiences. And I really hope everyone at home watching this feels better afterwards and understands that we only live once. And on your deathbed, you're going to regret all the things you did not say. I don't think you're going to regret the things you said nearly as much as you're going to regret the things you did not say. And you're also going to regret all the times you did not take the brave choice. If you're not sure what to do, you should take the brave option. And I think on your deathbed, you'll always be glad you were brave. And I have that peace in my heart, even when they throw me in a Romanian jail, that I know I always took the brave choice. I never took the coward's way out. I never took the easy way out, because that hurts your soul. And you're not just a person, you're also a spiritual being, and you need to do things which benefit your spirit. And it's amazing what a spirit of fire and genuine capability gives you. It's something which is tangible. It can be seen, it can be felt, it can be heard. And that's all comes from doing the brave thing. So I think that I hope everybody at home feels energized. I hope they make the brave choice. I hope they believe what they say and say what they believe. And I hope they stand up for themselves. And I think that alone, along with belief in God, is enough to fix many of the problems we're discussing in society today. Endless push-ups, endless, thousands a day. And this is the truth about my message as a whole. God is going to test you, and he's going to see if you really are the man you say you are. It's easy to say you're a tough guy, then God's going to put you in a position where you get a chance to prove you're a tough guy. I didn't miss a single day's training. I did not miss a single day's push-ups in that cell. I wasn't too depressed to train. I wasn't too sad to train, too anxious to train, too frustrated to train. I trained endlessly every single day. And it's interesting you talk about movies because it's true. Every single hero in every single movie goes through adversity. There's never been a hero movie where all he does is win. No, to be a hero, you have to suffer. And this can be extrapolated out, not just about my life, but about all men out there. If you're suffering in some degree, even if you're a normal guy with a normal job and you're suffering at your job, or you've had your heart broken because your girl left you or whatever, if you're suffering, that's part of your hero's journey. There is no hero's journey without suffering. If you have an easy life the whole way through, you never get to be a hero. That's the whole point of being a man, is that you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to eat pain for breakfast. You're supposed to come and grow into a better version of yourself. That's exactly what life's supposed to be about as a man. And another thing I want to say, when you mentioned that movie that popped to my head, I find it amazing that men will sit and watch movies about prisoners of war in Japan, or watch movies about men who go to war and risk their lives, or watch all these hero movies, and they have admiration for the hero, and they believe themselves to be some version of a hero, and then they're too afraid to say no to putting on a mask. If you're not going to say no to putting on a mask, don't watch hero movies anymore, because you're certainly not a hero. You are one of the villains. You're not even one of the important villains. You're not even one of the villains with a name. You're the stupid little henchmen who get beaten up. Those guys who are on screen for a flash of a second and die without consequence. Nobody even cares or mentions them again. Their family don't even get to give them a funeral. They're nobodies. You're a nobody villain. You're not even an important one. The important villains, we know their names. You're a number. You're not a name. If you're going to watch superhero movies, don't put a mask on your fucking face. And if you want to be a superhero in life, you need to understand that for 80% of the movie, you're going to suffer. For 80% of the movie, you're going to lose. Watch any superhero movie. For 80% of the movie, it is nothing but pain and frustration and difficulty. And when your life is that way, you have a chance to grow into something fantastic, and you should thank God for every difficult thing he puts in your path. Yeah, so I knew the guards were watching me, and I'm stubborn, and I believe that every time I did push-ups and they saw me doing them, I believed in my heart it annoyed them. And I am a very stubborn man, because they wanted me to be sad and broken. But every time they saw me, I was sweating and training. And every single time they'd check, they saw nothing but a lion who refused to stop doing push-ups. And they didn't want to do push-ups. They were too lazy. They're sitting around. They're the guards. They're not doing anything. And every single time they checked me for weeks and weeks and weeks, all I did was train. And I found the motivation to do it by knowing that it bothered them that I refused to quit. I'm stubborn like that. I don't even know if it's true. All I know is that I can adopt a mental model which makes me as competitive as possible, and I decided my push-ups bothered them, and they were the ones who were keeping me locked in a room, so I will do push-ups at them. I didn't do push-ups for me. I did push-ups at them endlessly. If I was awake, I was doing push-ups, or I was resting, preparing for my next set at them. It was my only weapon of defiance.
How many did you do a day?
Thousands. 1,500, 1,600 a day. But they need a war. And Tristan goes, where? I was like, I don't know, but they need one. They need one somewhere, because that's how it works. And it's kind of like a metaphor for life. You need a war, right? And because I have to be careful what I say about the war specifically, even though I think that sums it up, I think most people understand exactly what I'm saying. Think about a superhero movie. A man is unfairly imprisoned in a Romanian jail cell and trained so hard he emerges stronger than ever before. That is a movie. You get to live a movie as a man if all you had was some balls. Even you, think about your movie. You're literally saving the world, predicting the future. Our movies, I'm the most Googled man alive. We are living movie scripts. Why? Because we have bravery. Most men sit there and wonder why they're depressed, because you don't get to live a movie. You're not the main character of anything. You're not even a secondary character in anyone else's movie. You're an unimportant nobody because you were afraid your entire life. You've lived like a coward your whole life. You were afraid of what might happen if you have some balls. And then you wonder why you're depressed. I'd be depressed if I was you. Of course, your life sucks. I'd rather go to jail as me than live free as you. Because when you're free, you can't even do anything. You can't go where you want, you're broke. You can't have sex, girls don't want you. You can't speak because no one listens. So what are you free to do? You're more in jail than I ever was. When I was in jail, I was getting thousands of love letters from beautiful women around the world. Every single tweet I put out was watched by millions of people. I wasn't in jail. I was still free.
Let's be clear, not millions, 50 to 100 million. Let's stop playing it down.
50 to 100, yeah, 50 to 100 million people, exactly. Most of these people who have lived with cowardice in an attempt to preserve their freedom aren't even free. And that's what they don't understand. They're enslaved worse than I ever have been or ever will be. My mind is free. I'm allowed to think what I want to think and say what I want to say. They have thoughts and they go, don't know if I should say that. They second guess themselves. They're their own worst enemy. Every single part of me is on my team. I have enemies who want me dead, fine. But every single part of me, my mind, my hands, my legs, every single part of me is on my team. My body doesn't second guess itself. My mind doesn't turn on itself. We don't break and self-sabotage. There's no civil wars inside of Andrew Tate. All of us against you, all of us. I will say that it's also a fantastic metaphor for life. I don't think war ever ends. It just changes. It just moves. And if you're a man and you're going through something in your life, you think, everything will be fine once this is over. You'll learn that the war has ended in one place and it started again somewhere else, and that war never ends, and we're in a constant state of war. I sit around with my brother and we talk about, man, when this is over and we finally beat this case, we're going to be so happy. But I think there'll be a new war. I think there'll be a new case or a new problem or a new difficulty or a new struggle or new pain. This is never going to end. So war never ends. It just shifts and just moves. And I think, unfortunately, as Afghanistan ended, somewhere had to be chosen. And it's not necessarily about what's right or what's wrong or what's just. It's just about the fact that it's a very unfortunate reality of this world that sometimes people just die and they don't even really know why. I have the best brother on the planet, and he's the best brother on the planet because we are a team, and we are a truly unbreakable team. And we've always been a team. I can't imagine there's never been a point in our lives we were not a team. We've been a team since the absolute beginning. And 2 brothers are worth 10 men. 2 brothers are worth 10 friends. And that's just how we are as men, and we approach everything together. He has said to me repeatedly, they better not put you in jail without me. They better put us both in jail. If you're going to jail, I'm going to jail.
I was about to say, you couldn't see your brother, you couldn't talk to him, but what was it like in jail? Let's talk about that. And then not seeing your brother that you're so close to talk about that.
Yeah, for a long time we were not together. Then we ended up in the same cell for a while. I think we all know why that was done. I think if people who understand how ops work understand why they wanted us in the same room. So we were in the same room for a little while.
So they were recording you.
You said it, Alex. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because we drew strength from the fact that we knew the other was being strong at all times. And that gives you an incredible source of strength. Like, I knew he was being a man and he knew I was being a man. And it's amazing what groupthink can do. We talked about how destructive it can be in regards to how it can destroy civilizations.
But the reverse is even more powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When enough men get in a room and get pissed off, we'll charge at machine guns. It's amazing what you can do to the male psyche. When you have men around you who are brave, we can literally go over the top of the trench. It's incredible what can happen. So that's the biggest source of strength for me and my brother. We'll walk in the same room, give each other a nod, don't even say a word, and we're instantly ready to die because we've always been that way. And I only like hanging around with men who think that way. And that's why another reason, if you want to apply it to society, one of the reasons they attack masculine friendships so heavily and try and make out like men shouldn't be friends and being friends with men is gay and all this garbage. They try and destroy it because they want men lonely, because as a lonely man, you're much easier to kill. Absolutely. And misery loves company, so they try and drag us down to their level. And it's amazing where if you get 9 brave men in a room and 1 coward, that coward will probably still do the brave thing. He doesn't want to be seen as the only coward in the room. Peer pressure is real in both directions, both up and down. A downward spiral is real because people adhere to groupthink, but so is an upwards tornado of truth and justice is also real if people adhere to groupthink. So that's why bravery is so important, and that's why masculine friendship is so important. I can't be a coward. My brother won't let me. He can't be a coward. I won't let him. And it's a feedback loop. It's like one of those.
And don't you feel that towards your ancestors? Because anytime fear even creeps in, I think my ancestors were bad sons of bitches. I got to measure up to that. I'm not even thinking about family. I'm thinking about my ancestors. When I'm going to go all the way, I'm thinking, no, I don't come from scum. I come from warriors. I'm not backing down.
Absolutely. And they suffered endlessly for me to exist. Think of all the things they went through so that we could even breathe and talk. And I'm going to use my time on earth to be a coward and second guess myself and be afraid to tell the truth? Why did my ancestors fight and die then? For what? For me to be born and put a mask on? Is that it?
And sit around in a coffin apartment and the left's all pedophiles? This is disgusting.
And that's what they want. And most men, this is the thing that's very important. It's the final act of destroying masculinity, is that a lot of men no longer have shame. You have no shame left. You should be too ashamed to be a coward. You should be too ashamed to do the wrong thing. Where's your shame? Well, we destroy that, right? We destroy that even in schools with men and stuff. I'll tell you something. My brother can shame me into doing something. He can shame me. He can call me a pussy or a coward, and I'll set up and say, no, I'm not, and I'll do the brave thing. Shame works for men sometimes. I say to men all the time. Men come to me and say, I can't get a girlfriend. I say, it's because you're a loser. You are a loser. Change that fact. Come to me and prove to me you're not a loser. I will shame him, and he will react to it, and his life will improve. But now we have men with no shame. They'll walk around with no shame at all, and then we wonder why we have a whole bunch of cowards. Cowardice is always the easy choice, but you should feel too much shame to take it. When I left jail, I had very bad nightmares. For a long time, I couldn't sleep at all. And I was using all that time to obviously be productive. I'm not going to be the kind of person who lays in bed doing nothing. I was training hard. I was working. I was doing as much as possible. And over time, my mind has healed itself. I never took any drugs. I never went to a psychotherapist. I never cried about it. I never tried to, well, I need sleep.
Your brain was wargaming it, and that's what I have. I love my nightmares because they make me stronger.
Absolutely. My brain was going through endless scenarios in my subconscious, and my brain was going through them all, and I decided that if God decides I need nightmares right now, then I'm going to take my nightmares, and if I wake up, I'm going to go to the gym. That's it. I'm not going to cry about it or be a bitch. And now, over time, my mind has healed itself without any help.
Oh my God, brother. That's the thing. I love my nightmares. I used to hate them 20 years ago. I now know it's a war game. I enjoy them.
Completely. Now I'm sleeping soundly and I'm angry. I'm getting less done. I have less time. I'm sleeping. I'm like, give me my nightmares back. I want to train like I was training. I was up all night. I was living 24-hour days. Give me my nightmares back. Now I'm sleeping soundly. And that's the thing. It's the mental shift. It's a semantic shift. I'm supposed to be afraid of these nightmares. I'm supposed to want them to go away. Well, I want them back. Now what? Now what are you going to do? You're going to put me in a jail cell? You're going to give them back to me? You're going to give me what I want? Give them to me. I was far more productive. I was a more capable predator with my nightmares. So I want them back. I'm furious my mind's healed itself. Luckily, I believe God's going to give me another event at some point in my life that's going to damage me again, which is going to allow me to once again enjoy those sleepless nights. I'm not afraid of pain. I'm not afraid of any of it. Alex, I've never been afraid of any of it. So I don't know what they're going to do to me. Besides put a bullet in my head, because I'm not scared. It's the path of man, it's the path of victory, and it's the only path to truth. It's the only path to genuine happiness in your heart. There's one path. There's one. That's the reason we're finishing each other's sentences. There is one path to happiness, and that is masculine strength, and that is eating pain for breakfast and becoming a better person. The flavor of life is pain. You try to change the flavor, you're going to end up disappointed, you're going to end up weak, you're going to end up miserable. Accept the flavor and learn to love it. That's the only path to genuine competence and happiness within yourself as a man. Absolutely. So here's what you have to do. Every single opinion you have inside of your mind, you need to understand where it came from. Most people at home have very strict, strong opinions about certain subjects, and they don't know where it came from. It may not even be personal experience. It may be from the TV. It may be from somebody who they respected told them. Maybe it's societal pressure. Maybe it's peer pressure. Maybe it was a book. Maybe it was YouTube. If you don't identify where your own ideas are from, then you don't know if they're good for you or not. Do you understand? The first thing you need to do is next time you find yourself having a strong opinion on said subject, you need to sit and say, where did this opinion come from? Then you need to decide, does the source of that opinion care about me? Does it want me to be better? And this is the reason my message is so strong. People will repeat things. Where'd you hear that? Andrew Tate. Well, Andrew Tate wants me to be strong and rich and motivated and be a sovereign individual who believes in speaking up for myself. Andrew Tate wants what's good for me. So yes, I'm allowed to have this opinion. If you have another opinion, where'd you get that from? Oh, CNN told me this is happening in wherever, or this is what happened yesterday. Do they want good for you? Does CNN want you to be strong and rich and successful and motivated and happy? What does CNN want? Why is CNN telling you you're depressed? Do they want you to be miserable? If you do not identify the source of the ideas you hold, of the proof and backup and substantiation you have for the ideals that you repeat, then you can't identify whether they're good for you or not. You need to defrag your entire mind. Every single time you have any kind of strong opinion, you need to sit and say, okay, where did this come from? Another thing you need to do is you need to allow manipulation to find out where your opponent wants you to go and use your mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. I will sit and watch MSM in its entirety. I'll watch the entire news report to understand exactly what they want me to believe, and then I'll make sure that I don't believe it. Because most of the time, if you believe the absolute opposite they tell you, you're going to be completely fine. So you need to also be able to digest information, consume information without allowing it to stick to you. It has to be water off a duck's back. You do not want to be ignorant. Allow information in and use your mind to break traps and punish perpetrators. And once you will learn that most of the experiences you have in your life are what you needed to have an opinion. My opinions are based on personal experience, and not just one personal experience, repeated personal experience. That's why it's wisdom. It's not knowledge. You can get a kid who studies books all days long. He may be knowledgeable. He's not wise. That's why old people are wise, because you live it. And when you get wisdom, wisdom is very hard to combat against. So a lot of these people out here who don't really know what to think, or they're saying stupid things, or they seem confused, because they're repeating things they've been told to repeat, they don't know where it's from, and the people who are telling it to them, who want them to repeat it, do not have their best interests at heart. And it depends on what their goals are, and it depends whether they have any kind of spirit and soul and any kind of belief in the afterlife and any kind of belief in God. I think when you become truly atheistic, that is the end result of being a genuinely bad person. And they're only interested in power and control in this lifetime, and they don't actually care about the consequences of that into eternity. We talk about our ancestors. That requires a degree of spirituality. We talk about God. That requires a degree of spirituality. We talk about our duty to the people who came before us, and our duty to ourselves, and our duty to our souls, and our courage in our mind. All these things require a degree of spirituality. When you're completely atheistic and you have none of that, then all you're interested in is the temporary dopamine that comes from an ego hit. That's all it is. People don't understand that it can be as basic as the temporary dopamine that comes from an ego boost. That's why they want you to wear a mask, so they can get an ego boost. Because temporary dopamine is the only thing that's interesting to these people. Dopamine is the only drug they worship. It's the only thing they care about, and that's why they're addicts to outside substances. It's why they're sexual deviants. It's why they do things they're not allowed to do, because the fact that they're not allowed to do it makes it tempting because other people can't do it. It gives them an ego boost. Dopamine. So firstly, before we can even try to reason with anybody, we need to instill a sense of duty and honor in God inside of everybody. And that's why atheism in and of itself is such a destructive movement. And when people say they're an atheist, the thing that's most crazy about that is that they're not. They just worship something else. They worship a pride flag, or they worship climate change, and they go and sacrifice their life for climate change and lay in a road like an idiot. So there's no such thing as an atheist anyway. But when you remove God from people, it's very difficult to reason with them. And we're pro-humanist. You said it. We're pro-humanist, and we're pro-people acting like humans. Family, love, emotionality. Sometimes I get angry. I'm a man. I don't hide. I'm allowed to get angry. I'm a man. I have emotions. They are trying to turn us into robots, into QR codes. If you had to break it down to the most basic two directions we're heading in, we are trying to promote people to be people. We're trying to be, you nail it, with pro-humanist. We want people to have children and be in love with their children. We want people to feel joy. We want people to feel emotions. We want to have that beautiful spark of love between a man and a woman. We want to see a man stand up and do what's right for his family because of honor and courage. We want him to feel proud of himself. They want none of that. They want robots, because they want robots which ultimately comply, and they want to be the only humans left. They're trying to turn everyone else into robots so they can feel human by getting the dopamine hit of destroying the humanity. Destroying everyone else's humanity and turning them into robots gives them enough dopamine to feel human, because otherwise they don't feel human. They're already dead inside. We are pro-humanists trying to make everybody feel human, so we're heading in completely opposite directions, and it's unfortunate that, like vultures and parasites, the only way they can feel human at all is by destroying the humanity of others. They have to suck it, like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat, suck other people's souls away so they can feel like they have one. That's why they're heading in the direction they are, and their end state is everybody else robotic so they can feel semi-alive. And we, because we already feel alive inside, want to encourage others to feel like us. We are pro-humanist, and they're trying to create QR codes and robots. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. At cobratate.com, my email list is free. I keep everybody completely updated. There's also some of my programs on there, just so I'll explain quickly what they are. I have Hustlers University. It only costs $49. It's extremely cheap, and I teach people how to make money online with 18 different modern wealth creation methods. We have thousands of testimonials of people who spent $49 and made thousands and thousands of dollars, so I encourage people to try that. It's a completely unique platform we built ourselves. It's not on any matrix-controlled apparatus. It's a completely brand new online school designed to teach people how to make money. Anybody, man, woman, old, young, doesn't matter. We have kids in there. We have old women in there. Everybody's making money. That's on cobratate.com as well. And the other way you could support me, topg.com, which you can also link to from Cobra Tate. We have t-shirts and that kind of thing, and it's amazing to spread the message. But ultimately, I want you to live true to yourself. I want you to be strong. It's fantastic if you're on my email list so I can keep you updated. But you support me by making this worthwhile, by knowing my message resonates. If I go through all of this and I talk to you and you listen to me and you don't do anything and you stay losing at life, then none of it was worth it. But if I go through all of this and you wake up and you start going to the gym, becoming a better person, standing up for what's right, refusing to allow yourself to become a slave, then it was worth it. So the best way you can support me is be the best possible version of yourself.